We might only have a few hours left. Stock market investors, hello. Beautiful people, shalom. Money makers, Micron holders, Nvidia investors, Spcx investors, Sofi investors. What's going on? What's happening? Why, Avi, are you telling us there's only a few hours left? Well, what happened a few hours actually previous to me recording this video was that the Bank of Japan decided to raise interest rates, and this is the fourth time that the Bank of Japan has raised interest rates, and it's gotten to the highest level since 1995. How many of you were alive back then? Right? I was, because I'm an oldie already, 40 this year. Yes, yes, I know. But it's been a long time since Bank of Japan had raised interest rates to 1%, just 1%. This is marking the highest policy rate in 31 years, extending Japan's historic shift away from ultra easy monetary policy. If you don't know, prior to the 1995, in the 80s, Japan was booming, right? Their real estate market was the best in the world. The richest people in the world were coming from Japan. And then they started to have a few rough years. And since then, they have had their interest rates at a very low pace a rate. But right now, in the past few years, everything that's happening around the world, the current economic, the current, you know, um, the current population structure that is now in Japan, they need to change things a little bit. And previously, when they have decided to raise interest rates, markets have fallen in the weeks after. So right now, we are sitting and waiting and anticipating to see what could potentially happen with the markets after this raise. Please read the disclaimer. Now, we also have, of course, the current situation with Iran. President Trump is saying that the only way that he's going to agree is that if Iran agrees to never have a nuclear weapon, also saying that the story that the US is paying around $300 million is fake news. So if you've heard any of those rumors, it's not true, according to the president. Right now, oil is at 79, so it hasn't really pulled back too much since the initial announcement about the deal. Right now, you can see we're at 77. Sorry. So this is actually right now that I'm recording this. It is the lowest that oil has been outside of this wick, but you could say since the March, right? So the first weeks of the war, right, we were rising up. And this is the lowest point we've been since then. So oil is reacting, but we're not back down to 63. You would think that if everything is all honky dory, right, by the time the deal is signed on Friday, we should be back into the 60s. We'll see. We'll see if that happens. And if that happens, of course, tomorrow we have a big day with the Fed meeting, or the Fed decision. Actually, the Fed meeting starts today, but the Fed decision with the new Fed chairman's speech is happening tomorrow. And we're going to see. Right now, the probabilities of a the interest rate staying put is about 99.4% last time I checked. Previously, with the previous Fed chairman, it was always on par. So when the probabilities were telling us he's going to reduce, he reduced. When it was he's going to raise, he raised, right? When he's going to stay put, he stayed put. But now with the new chairman, we don't know what's going to happen. Furthermore, if oil starts dropping, this gives him more confidence that inflation is going to come down in the next coming months, and he can be proactive and start reducing interest rates. So there might be a surprise. If there is a surprise, markets could go up and have a very, very positive reaction. If he suddenly raises interest rates, then the markets could have a negative effect. And if he keeps put, that's what the market is basically expecting. So it won't be a big surprise. What we're going to have to look for is after that is what is he going to say? I'll make a recap video of that. So make sure, of course, to subscribe to the channel so you can get a reaction to his first meeting and what he said. And many times the market, if you watch the S&P 500 right when the initial decision comes out, and then when he speaks, you can see like really spiky movement. It's kind of interesting to watch. If you've never seen it live before, I recommend doing that, watching it live. And it's an experience. So we'll see what he's going to say. But right now, the markets are looking at what is potentially going to happen with this deal or no deal. So right now, the S&P 500 is close to all-time highs, right? It had that dip, and then the Nasdaq also close to all-time highs. But then you have assets, Nvidia, that's kind of still far away from its highs, right? Nvidia, AMD created new highs yesterday, but then pulled back a smidge. We'll see what happens with that. SpaceX continues with its big pop, but we need to be careful because we know that IPOs and big IPOs after the first few days have a tendency to sell off. Overnight trading, I think it got to like 230, somewhere around that. It doesn't show it here because it was overnight trading on Robinhood and places like that. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with SpaceX today. It's going to be very interesting because remember, there's only a very short amount of shares that are out there. And that could create a short term squeeze, but it could also create a short term sell off. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. Palantir had a nice pop yesterday, 5%. Still down after the rally we saw, and then it sold off strong. We'll see if it can recover here. If we go and we look at Sofi, Sofi had a nice day yesterday, up 3.3%. Not amazing, but okay. And again, it's getting closer and closer here for Sofi to potentially cross over here on the 1348 EMA. So we're going to watch out what could potentially happen with Sofi in the next coming day. Micron had another big day, up another 10% there, recovered basically all the losses that we had from that sell-off last 2 Fridays ago already, with that bad job report, a good job report that was bad for the Fed decision. And we saw it come down there. Right now, pre-market new all-time highs. We'll continue to see what's happening with Micron. AAIO had a big day there. Some had big days. Marvel up another 10%, almost close to that high that we saw previously. The market is in a very interesting status right now. Things are very, very positive, but we know that especially with this decision from Bank of Japan, things can flip. And if the Fed does something that shocks everybody in a bad way, things could flip. So again, I'll give you the warning that the markets are right now are very, very bullish. Things are looking really good, but I am always careful. I know that things can flip. I know that when people are getting too confident, right, things can flip to the other side. Again, it doesn't mean that I am saying run to the hills, right? But we need to be careful. We need to be calculated, and we need to, not do things all willy nilly. We have to have a plan in place. Okay. Right now my portfolios are very close to their all-time highs, and that always gives me a little bit of the heebie-jeebies because I know that previous times when I felt very, very confident and I was close to all-time highs, then suddenly I saw these big pullbacks. So I'm very careful with this. Again, you might want to do something different. Every single person has a different risk ratio and can do different things according to their age or how much risk they can take. So you have to decide what is good for you. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. A lot of you are watching but are not subscribed. And the easiest thing you can do to support is to just smash that like button. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you next time. And like I always say, let's make a lot of money.